Jake here for American Trucks, and today I'm taking a look at the Flowmaster FlowFX dual side exit exhaust with black tips, fitting the 2017 to 2022 6.2 liter F250 Super Duty. An exhaust can make or break the driving experience of your truck, and if you're looking for something that's noticeable but still on the subtle side to update your truck's sound and performance, then this FlowFX system is going to appeal to you. Coming in at a solid 2 out of 5 on our loudness meter, this system combines a slick dual exhaust setup with a more subtle version of that classic Flowmaster sound at an affordable price point, making it absolutely perfect for a daily driven truck. A Flowmaster exhaust and a big V8 is a classic combination, but it's very easy to go overboard on noise. If you want that classic Flowmaster look and sound, but you don't want to go around rattling the windows or getting your neighbors irritated, then the FlowFX is going to be for you. Now, unlike a lot of other exhausts, this one is not super loud. As you heard in the clips at the beginning of the video, you still get that nice deep V8 soundtrack when you really get into it, but at idle or even just cruising around, the sound is much more mild and relatively unobtrusive. It's a moderate step up from your stock system, and Flowmaster themselves even call this one just moderately aggressive. Now, there is of course going to be a difference in volume and tone to the exhaust versus your stock system. Not so little that you won't notice the difference. It's definitely there. Now, inside the cabin, you certainly hear it more than you would your stock system as well. But again, not going to be so loud that you can't carry on a conversation. You're not going to get a lot of drone with this one either. So for a daily driven truck or one that's going to see a lot of highway miles, that is a great benefit. You're going to get that sound that you want with none of the annoyances that can sometimes come with aftermarket exhausts. Now, although Flowmaster calls the FlowFX muffler a straight through unit, you can tell that this does have some baffles in it. Hence the more mild tone as opposed to something like their Outlaw series. As you can hear, there's quite a bit in here to absorb the sound. Now, this is also going to help contribute to keeping that drone at bay. It's going to make for a much more pleasant drive without too much noise. Now, capping it all off are these large black tips, and these are going to exit out both sides of the truck just behind the rear wheels. So this makes for a pretty slick looking setup despite them being pretty large. It's also going to keep the exhaust gases away from whatever you might be towing behind you. So instead of coming straight out the back, these are going to come out of the sides. And since you're adding a bit of piping for that driver's side exit, you might also be concerned about clearance around the frame and spare tire, but these sections are designed to perfectly clear everything. So that means you don't have to do anything aside from bolting on the provided hanger for that side. Plus, this kind of setup just looks cool. And that is due in no small part to these tips. Now, these again are dual wall rolled 4.5-inch tips. They're made from T304 stainless steel, and they're finished in this black ceramic coating. It's kind of a matte finish. So not only do they look great, they're also going to stand the test of time. Construction here is all 409 grade stainless steel, so you're going to get some good rust and corrosion protection, though it won't be quite as much as a system made from T304 stainless. However, you also don't get the price of T304, but we'll talk more about that in a moment. Now, the piping here is all mandrel bent tubing. It's 3.5 inches going into the muffler and 3 inches running out back to the tips. And like we discussed a moment ago, those tips are again T304 stainless steel, so they're going to look good for a long time to come. Pricing for this system is another big selling point in my book, folks, as this one comes in at just about $800. Now, it's not the cheapest system out there, but it does far undercut a lot of other options for these trucks. This is a lot of exhaust for a lot of truck, so you're gonna have to pay the price for it. Now, I do think that $800 is worth it here. You're saving a bit versus a fully T304 grade stainless setup, but it's still a good quality system and it's gonna sound a lot better than stock. And you're also gonna avoid some of the drone issues that less expensive options might have. So overall, it's a good value for your money, and I think you'd be pretty happy with this one. Installation is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and it should take you about 2 hours to get it all done. Pretty much the same as any other exhaust, and everything you need is included in the kit, including an exhaust hanger for the driver's side of the truck to get that second tailpipe section on. You also get an extension pipe in the kit for the inlet should you need the extra length to accommodate for a larger cab and or bed length. Now, instructions on which trucks are going to need it are included in the box as well, so make sure you double check that before you go ahead and put this on. Otherwise, this is a pretty simple bolt-on system. It's going to utilize all of your other stock exhaust hangers, and there's no modification needed to your truck itself. Certainly something you can accomplish at home in your garage or driveway. And with that, let's go ahead and jump out to the install bay and we'll walk you through the process.
The tools you're going to need for this install include an impact, electric or regular 3/8 ratchet, a 14mm wrench, a 17, 15, 14, 13, 10mm sockets, a 3/8 extension, some safety glasses, hanger removal tool, lubricant, and a rag. What's up guys? Today we're going to be installing a catback exhaust on our F-250, but before we get started you're going to watch a short video on how to uninstall your stock exhaust, and I'll meet you back here for the install.
First thing we're going to do, we have our vehicle up on a lift. If you're at home and you don't have a lift, you want to jack your vehicle up, make sure you got jack stands under it, support it very well. Once we get under here, we're going to start with PB Blaster and lube up our bolts that we're going to be loosening, one up here, two back here behind the muffler, and the rubber exhaust grommets. We're going to lube them up and let them soak a little bit so that way it's easier for us to pry and get them off. Now the first thing, I've already sprayed everything. Everything's been soaking for a little while. So what I'm going to do first, take my 15mm, get under here and start removing my first clamp. Now I'm going to loosen this clamp up. I'm not going to take it all the way off. I'm just going to make sure it's pretty loose, and then I'll give it a smack with a hammer to open it up. That'll give us access to get this pipe off. Next, we're going to go to the back. There's two nuts holding up a bracket that holds the hanger for the back muffler. We'll get those loose, and then we'll start on our rubber exhaust grommets. Now, this clamp here, we're going to remove the two 13mm and take this bracket off. And that'll release that. This is actually welded to the pipe, but that releases the bracket there. Now we'll start removing our rubber exhaust grommets. So now to make this easier, I'm just going to remove the two 10mm bolts right here that hold this rubber grommet on. Even though I sprayed it, which is still good, I'm not going to wrestle with it with a pry bar under here. I'm just going to remove these. Then when I get it on the ground, I can take my grommet removal tool and pop it off and make it a lot easier. And then we'll just reinstall our mount here before we put the new exhaust on. Now I'm going to do this same thing on the back grommet and get that one off so that the exhaust hangs down. Then we'll be able to wiggle it and get it out from underneath here. So now I'm going to make this a little easier by removing the 10mm that hold this bracket on. There's actually 4 of them, 2 on each side. So now you're just going to want to repeat the same procedure on the other side of the bracket. So now that I got everything unhooked, we're ready to take it out. I got Joe here to give me a hand. We're going to slide it off and fish it through. If you're doing this on the ground, you might have to make some cuts to get it out. But we should be able to fish it through and take the whole exhaust off in one piece.
So first step, we're going to install our inlet pipe. First, we'll put our clamp over, and our hanger is going to go in the isolator that's above the frame, and this notch on the pipe will go onto the notch on the factory pipe. So first we can slide our hanger into the isolator, and then get our pipe in the factory pipe, making sure that the notch on the factory pipe is lined up. Then we can slide our hanger over, and we can tighten that down with a 15mm socket. Next, we'll install our muffler. First, we can slide our 3.5-inch clamp over our inlet pipe. Then we can slide our muffler in. Now we can snug this clamp up with our 15mm socket. Now for the passenger side over axle tube, we can slide our pipe over the axle to the left side of the shock. Then we can get our hanger into the isolator. We can slide our clamp over the muffler. Then we can get our pipe into the muffler. Now that your pipe is in place and your hanger is in the isolator, we can tighten our clamp down with our 15mm socket. Now we can install our second isolator on the same tube, so we can slide this through our hanger, through the middle of the frame. Get it lined up with the pre-existing holes. Then we can thread in our 4 10mm bolts. And now we'll get the 2 bolts in on the other side. Then we can tighten these down with our 10mm socket. Next, we'll install our driver side over axle tube. First, we'll slide our clamp over. We can slide our axle over the tube. Get our tube into the muffler. We can remove the isolator. Now we can slide our isolator over our hanger. We can push our exhaust up to get it into place. Now with our isolator in place, we can tighten down our clamp with our 15mm socket. Now moving on to the driver's side, we're going to be installing our hanger. If you have overload springs on your truck, you're going to remove these 2 bolts and reuse them. But in our case, we do not have overload bolts, so you're going to have to pick yourself up a set of 2 bolts. Then we can line those up with the hole, thread them in. Now we can tighten these down with our 17mm socket. And now we can install our pipe. Now for our next pipe, you can throw a clamp on it, and then we'll get it lined up in our other pipe. We can slide that in. Now we can slide our isolator onto our hanger. We can get that onto the hanger that we just installed. Like so. Now we can go back and tighten up our clamp. Now we can install our turn pipes. So we can throw our clamp over our turn pipe. We can slide this in. Get that nice and lined up. Then we can tighten down our clamp using a 15mm socket. Lastly, we'll install our tip. So you can slide that over top. Then you can grab a 14mm socket and a 14mm wrench. We can tighten this down. And now you can repeat that process on the other side, and you can tighten up all your clamps. So that's going to wrap up the install on our Flowmaster Flow FX dual exhaust system with black tips and side exits for your 17 to 22 6.2 liter F-250 Super Duty. Thanks for watching, and for all things F-250, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.